friends, welcome back to another very special episode of the Film Alchemist podcast, the show where we take the movies we love, break them apart, to find out what gives them their magic. I'm your host, Josh Griffey, joined as always by my see-through anatomy friend.
That's the nicest thing you've ever said to me, Alex Dandino.
Just a model physique over there, the guidepost to my... All right, guys, before today's amazing, the first part of our double feature presentation, we love double feature day. We do have some business. Guys, it's official. People, we are on Patreon. That's right, patreon.com/filmalchemistpod. It's the absolute best way to help the show, guys. For as little as $1 a month, you can get in, join the community, meet our awesome patrons over there at patreon.com. If you can, and you donate a little more to go up the Highlander official tier ranking system, you can pick the movies that you want to hear specifically, and a Patreon exclusive library. That's right. You want to hear about it? We talk about it. We haven't said no yet. No one has found the boundaries of which we're like, not that one. And we have some awesome ones. The library is growing. It's awesome. Our friends are great. We do some other fun stuff. Always working on ideas for Patreon. So again, guys, we know dollars are hard earned, so we're working hard to earn those from you. So again, that's patreon.com/filmalchemistpod. We do appreciate it so much. For those of you who already support us, thank you. For those of you who are about to, thank you as well. Make sure you go to YouTube, subscribe to the channel Film Alchemist if you want to see our perfect anatomical faces to go with our ventriloquist voices. Yeah.
See ventriloquist stuff right now?
That's right. Film Alchemist over on YouTube. Video pods over there and some other stuff we're working on always. Make sure you leave us a rating and review wherever you find the show. That's something free and easy you can do for us. Share us on your socials. Invite your friends. That's always great. Speaking of social, on all the socials you're on. The email, filmalchemistpod@gmail.com. All right, Alex, your business. Very exciting.
I do have a bit of business, actually. As you know, I am a comic book writer from time to time, and we are kickstarting right now a anthology series that I have a story in for a pop culture website called Soda and Telepaths. The book is called Producing the End of the World. It's all apocalypse-driven stories. I have a story in there, the title of which is The Last Song Played Will Not Be Freebird. If you want to find out what that story is, think about going to Kickstarter. We'll maybe include the link in the show notes. And go to Kickstarter, check out the pages, check out the campaign. Give us whatever ducats you can. I think the lowest thing is like $5. If you give us $5, you get like a shout out or something like that. Or at least it's like a tip jar thing. But if you go a little further, we can give you a digital copy, that kind of stuff. There's a lot of great stories in there. Actually, one of our guests from October, Rob Pilkington, has another story in there, and his story is awesome too. So please, please, if you feel so inclined and have some extra holiday money, we'd love it. Thank you so much.
Help the cause, people. Help the cause. Yeah, it's going to be a wonderful anthology, guys. Make sure to go donate. We will put that in the show notes. All right. Speaking of business, today,
Jesus.
Double feature. We love double feature day. I love the idea of taking two movies, putting them together, and watching how they bounce off, rub up against inappropriately, and alter each other in a genetic level, right?
Jesus Christ.
Of all the double features we've done, right, we decided now that our patrons, right, so the people over at our Patreon, they are the ones now who get to decide our double features, right? We handed the reins over. And by God, we have some really good ones on the list. Today's is the weirdest and most aptly paired duo that's on the list.
I love it when the patrons actually do this. Like, they really marry movies in this way. And because, like, we've had people who just want us to talk about two movies that could be the same, very different, whatever. I love it when patrons are theming them. And this is... what a theme this man.
The ones we have coming Brody up are Kane. Fantastic. Yeah. So Brody Kane,
Brody has picked.
Brody picked. We haven't decided quite what to call it. We were going with maybe the cheap trick. Daddy's all right. He just seems a little weird. Don't Surrender. That's the other theme of this double feature. I'm not sure what you'd call it, but this is shockingly and specifically Bad Dads. Maybe we can take umbrage with that. So first up, Pin, 1988's just lost horror movie. I've never even heard of this fucking movie, which is usually
it's another YouTube discovery. Like we watched it.
Yes, I had to find it on YouTube. That's right. And then we are following it up with what was a very beloved film. I remember this being a really like a hot film that everyone was talking about, Frailty. Bill Paxton, Matthew McConaughey, awesome fucking flick. So we're gonna start tonight with Penn. Again, thank you, Brody Kane. This was a fucking
good call.
Journey,
Phenomenal,
a fucking journey. All right, Alex. So I turned on Penn. I'd never heard of it. I'd never seen it. I could only find it on a YouTube link. This movie is so aggressively bizarre and so deeply personal in how it is haunting.
Yeah.
That it's one of those movies that halfway through you're like, I need to call Child Protective Services. I just don't know for who. And where to find a time machine.
My thought was I needed to call it on myself. Like I was like, I should not be watching this movie because this.
I felt the exact opposite. I watched it and I was like, I am such a good parent. I am such a good parent.
That's true. Actually, you did text me immediately after. Like it was like right around the time. It was like I had 10 minutes left in the movie. You text messaged me. You're like, at least we're not that bad.
Hey man, every parent struggles with self-esteem. This double feature will help that out, man. Yeah. So let's lay out the basics because there's going to be a chunk of you. Again, you can find this on YouTube. Penn, 1988. We'll never have seen this or heard it, right? This is, how do I summarize this? So this is a movie. I mean, this is a Citizen Kane-like story from like childhood till end of life.
Shut up.
This is a life's worth of tale right here, right?
Based on a novel, by the way.
Jesus Christ.
Based on a
have
novel,
to find that novel.
Based on a novel by the same guy who wrote the Devil's Advocate. Not the movie, the book.
Dude, I've got to find these books now. That sounds that actually, this one as a book would probably rock my world. And honestly, I love this movie.
Andrew Niederman.
So here's the deal, right, guys? There's a dad who's a doc, right? And he's got these two little creepy overachieving kids, right? And he decides he's going to teach them life lessons, right? Via a medical dummy. But not any medical dummy, right? Not the classic skeleton in the corner or whatever. He is a musculature system covered in like a plastic dome body named Penn, right? He's the titular character of the film.
Character of the film. Have you ever watched Deadliest Warrior? It's like if one of those dummies they use to show like how deep you can cut someone with like a scythe. Yeah. It's if one of those was in a hospital.
If you took Uncle Frank from Hellraiser and gave him the battle armor from David Lynch's Dune.
I just did a spit take. That was impressive.
Got your ass, right? Or as we call Uncle Frank here on the show, the uncle with the good dick, right? If you put him in the David Lynch Dune armor, right? That like fucking blocky bubble armor. That would be Penn.
Oh, that's good,
so
yeah.
The dad's theory is he will tell his kids the hard things in life, no pun intended, via throwing his voice and having it come from this fucking muscle flesh man named Penn.
Not only is this man a learned doctor, but a very accomplished ventriloquist.
Yes. And we'll get deeper. There's a lot more that he is also as well. Creepy highest above them, right? But so the movie asks us to suffer a lot, right? One, I've never seen a film that is so absolutely blasé with time jumps. They just fucking jump like 10 years at a time and don't even fucking acknowledge it constantly.
Yep.
So it will take you a minute to get into the movie, right? But this is the thing. So not only does this dad, he uses this thing as a way to communicate with his children. There's a scene where the young girl has found a porno mag, and this young daughter is very amped up to have sex, right? And she's excited. 7, 8 years old, right?
Yes.
It is a wildly uncomfortable scene, which is essentially what the movie is strewn with. So her sexual awakening takes place at the exact same time. See, we're going to sound insane because it's really hard to get this all in and set the groundwork because the act one of this movie is like 40 minutes of the movie. And it's a lot, right? So as she's having her looking at porno mags awakening because she likes tits, right? She likes the tits. She's obsessed with them, right?
Correct.
Weird lines happening. Like, do you think this is what mom's tits look like? Like a weird series of things to say, right? This happens right after the young boy, Leon, went to see Penn to talk to him, right? Because he's a family fucking friend. To the point where the dad gives his daughter and his son birthday presents from the fucking muscular system mannequin which he speaks to, right? That's how fucking creepy and integrated this thing is into their life. It is an Uncle Frank Santa Claus omnipresent friend and sibling almost, right? It's horrifying. So he goes to talk to Penn, right? Leon goes to talk to Penn.
Right.
He hears a clatter, right? And he goes and hides behind a fucking curtain. In walks this just meat and potatoes nurse, right? This is a real blue-collar looking
what a way to put
lady,
that.
Right? Like, she looks just like all of my aunts, right? Like
she looks like just a classic candy striper. Just like you couldn't... It's just plucked out of central casting perfection.
I mean, this is like... These are real working ladies, right? She's not... This is a lady who just finished a hard shift. Apparently, not only are the kids integrated in this life, she fucks Penn on the reg.
Yep.
And so the young boy Leon is caught behind a curtain watching this nurse, and Penn's on top, which gets to a theory I have later. And he watches and has a mental breakdown about Penn fucking.
Yeah.
Later that day, as his sister's having her sexual awakening, right? She calls Penn a dummy, and he decides to smack the fuck out of her.
Slaps her in the face. Like, I mean, not just like, by the way.
Aggressively.
It's like, it comes so fast out of nowhere. Like,
yeah.
I was like, I took a step back. Like, I was like, whoa.
No, okay, so again, we're trying to fill the sandbox before we deconstruct. There's a lot of things that happen in this movie. Whoa, whoa. Take it easy. His turn to rage at the insult to Penn, who he just saw humping this, lady nurse. The mom catches him with the porno mag.
Yeah.
So what is Dad's answer? Obviously, let's go talk about sex with Penn.
Right.
And he talks about we need more humans, so that's why normal humans are thirsty for sex, right? That's how he phrases it.
He's basically trying to explain sex as strictly procreation.
Yeah. It's the birds and the bees with this fucking creepy ass doll and ventriloquism, which doesn't make anything less creepy.
No.
It's always more creepy. If you're thinking, well, maybe he's just a science dad and he doesn't know how to relate, right? He then says, hey, son and daughter, let's kick this up a notch. Go take the washcloth off of Penn's dong, which they seem to insinuate is just this awesomely massive dong.
Yeah.
Because he's getting ridden all the time. The girl can't do anything but just chuckle. The boy, Leon, he does like the Chris Farley, like recoils in horror.
Yeah, so he takes that just like crusty jizz rag off of the dome.
You think the nurse doesn't mop that shit down? That's the final...
That's the mop right there, man. I'm saying that's...
Oh, no.
Oh, yeah. Like,
no.
This movie is...
Are you saying that Penn is the Howard the Duck of this movie?
Oh, Penn is Howard ducking everybody.
I think that is a lady she's on duty, right? I think this is more of a functional, not romance thing between them. And I think she cleans it up before she leaves.
I'm not saying there's anything romantic, but she cleans it up, but that's the rag she cleans it with.
You are led to believe that maybe multiple people in this universe are having sex with Penn on the reg. That he's getting laid more than everyone else.
Penn gets laid a lot.
Yeah. It's... Okay, so I don't know if we've done enough to set up the story of the movie. I feel like that's everything you need to know to get a start.
What you need to know is that this young lad is sexually repressed beyond comprehension. And
which is weird because the dad seems like he's like, hey, man, it's fine.
And this girl, the little girl who will turn into an adult at some point in this movie via time travel wipe.
Yeah. I think the first one is because he just is all of a sudden now he's like a 10-year-old.
The first one is literally a fade to white.
Yeah.
It's the weirdest thing.
The second one is an exhaust cloud, and then we're just at a prom. And you're like, wow, this movie, by the end of the movie, they could be 50 years old, and I have no idea.
This movie's 102 minutes. I got to tell you, it cooks. Like, you got to...
It's literally Citizen Kane of creepy fucking sex mannequin movies.
It's god damn, it's so bizarre. But like the groundwork I think that has been laid is simply like you have a sexually repressed young man, you have a young girl who's decided that sex is probably not, she's like semi-normal in some fashion. Like
she's
as
just
normal as
very
you can
excited about sex, right? And she
Yeah.
has a dad who keeps a giant dong mannequin in his office.
And then you
He's
have
telling
the
him it's
dad
normal,
who's the dad who is Terry O'Quinn. For those of you who know him best, the great Terry O'Quinn. Most of you guys know him from Lost. He's Howard Hughes from The Rocketeer for me. Always.
For me, he is The Stepfather, a series I
yes.
cannot wait to cover. I fucking love him. And he's great in this movie because he's not playing a creep, but it's dripping with creep the entire performance. I think he knows somewhere he's like, this guy's wrong.
Did you just say that this guy who ventriloquist, who like throws his voice to explain sex to children, isn't a creep?
Oh, are we just judging methods now? Is that what we do?
I'm judging this method.
I'm a parent. I don't throw stones from my fucking glass house,
Fuck
man.
you. That's
Whatever.
bullshit. You and I have serious conversations about the stones we throw at other parents.
That's true. I might as well be Dennis the Menace saying fucking stones around. I judge the shit out of everyone. Pew, pew, pew. But what I'm saying is, what I saw was a dad who loves his kids, treats them like adults, which I am also a fan of. And it went off the rails a little bit. And I don't know that it's his fault as much as it's genetics.
You don't
right?
always have to treat your kids like adults. I'll say that.
You could have left the washcloth on. I agree with that. But I don't think he did anything that wrong.
There's some aspects of adulting that 10-year-olds don't need to be associated with it. I'm going to say this. When a daughter of 7 says, do you think, I bet mom cleans dad's penis with spick and span, right before they, like, that one was like, well, there's the line of the movie for me right there.
All kids are sexually and genitally fascinated at that age.
We
all did the thing at the babysitter, show me yours, I'll show you mine, right? We all got in trouble for that a couple times.
I'm not saying that
Dude,
that's
I got
not a
locked
thing.
in a room. I had to be quarantined from the other children because me and this girl got caught in the treehouse. Show me yours, I'll show you mine, right? I got locked in the babysitter. Like, she kept us apart like we were actually, like, infectious children. Like they used to do. I got put in the fucking chicken pox room because this girl was like, she initiated it too, first off.
You got like fly-tooed. You got
and
Eric
I was
Stoltz.
like fucking maximum of like 5 or 6 years old. And this babysitter just got the fucking vipers. And we were quarantined. I got locked in a room and she just kept coming in and restarting Return to Oz. Which is such, like, talk about being, like, traumatized from a sexual experience.
That'll pin you right there. Jeez.
Yeah, honestly, I think back, and I was like, that was, like, I think she knew specifically she was trying to hurt me on a psychological, but that's what I mean. Kids are fascinated by how bodies work and shit and this and that, right? And this girl just had a friend who was feeding her porno mags, and they got a little into it, right? And I think what you see, right, is I think the movie actually has a pretty healthy attitude towards it, right? Is that it's fine to be sexually interested and active, right? What you see is not... What I like, too, is that the sex is not her problem, right? Because you see that someone graffitis his locker, like, if you want an easy fuck, call Ursula, whatever, right? And he's enraged. Because what the movie really is at its core is this really weird... There is just this dripping subtext of incest throughout the entire film.
Oh, yes. There's no way it's not a thing, by the way.
Especially with the brother, but even the dad's like a little out there. But so he sees that and gets mad, right? He goes out, his sister's fucking in a car, he pulls this dude out and fucking beats the shit out of this guy.
Yeah.
And so what you see immediately is that the men in this family have a very perverse and sad relationship with sex. And the spillover effect of that for her is kind of the boat we ride the rest of the film, right? There is this weird dueling father and son not being able to cope with sex. What did you make of these father-son parallel journeys?
I mean, it's weird. They're both weird. Like, to me, it's this weird, the movie talks about like male sexual repression in a way that's very specific. And And I gotta be honest, like, it is a strange thing, like, from a male, because, like, this was directed by him. I believe this is a man named Sandor Stern. Directed by a man. It comes from a very male point of view, which is really strange, because, like, it feels like, and I'm not saying this is necessarily how the movie is written, but it does have this a sense of, like, the daughter, like, the daughter's name is Ursula. It does have this, like, sense of, like, shaming Ursula for being essentially a normal, healthy human being, and that, like, and not to say, like, but, like, it's not glorifying the brother and Terry O'Quinn. It's more this conversation of, like, it's one of those conversations of, like, all these guys are fucked up, but she's just as fucked up because she's not somehow seriously sexually repressed. I don't know. Like, for me, it was just this constant battle. It was, to me, this constant battle of, like, who's worse at being this repressed? Because, like, Terry O'Quinn's character is so uncomfortable. It was like this competition the entire movie.
Well, what you're left asking yourself constantly, right? Because we see the mom just haul off and smack the shit out of Leon. Leon then passes that on to her, right? So there's a lot of this sins of the father and mother thing, right?
Right.
And that they are this family that has this big opulent house. He's a fucking doctor. I think at one point Ursula's like, I remember our house being clean and the meals were on time and they tasted good. And Dad asked us a question before bed. And you're like, all those things are true. And all those things sound like a TGIF show that I would have watched. You forgot the other fucking parts, like the many myriad parts that are not okay, right?
Right.
So Ursula ends up getting pregnant at 15, right?
Right.
So this is where we start to see these kind of, like, because you start to wonder, well, I'll get to that. This is actually a really hard one to, like, not jump all over, because there's a lot happening here, right? So we see she gets pregnant, right? She thinks she's pregnant at 15. This is the crack, right, that's going to implode this family, essentially. Or at least the mental health of most of them, right?
Right.
And weirdly, the only one who seems to come out of this not scarred is Ursula, which, again, I think is a male POV thing.
Yes.
Because the scene is played to horrifying effects, right? She comes to her dear brother. She's like, help me, help me. And he's like, we got to ask Penn. And this is the emergence of, oh, now he can do Penn's voice himself.
Right.
Fucking what? What? Right?
Again, it's so...
But because he now speaks for Penn, she relents into telling her father, who's a doctor, who decides, I'm going to handle this myself. And has maybe the most disturbing moment of the film, right? And he's like, are you scared? Yes, sir. Good. As he's about to perform this procedure on his own daughter. And this is the weird where I'm like, their journeys are somewhat connected. He asks Leon if he wants to stay and observe to learn. Walk me through this moment where all of these various psychoses are congealing.
I mean, you got to think back to that sneaking a peek of the nurse banging out Penn. So there's a little bit of that. It's your sister. I mean, I don't know. I'd say, like, the word you used is perfect. Congealed psychosis. Dude, that is exactly how I'd put it.
Again, what I love about the patrons too is that on an instinctual level, they see a movie like Penn and they're like, "This is for our guys. This is for our friends. We're the show that."
I appreciate that these are tailor made. Like, these curations are often movies, like tailor made to, like, see how far they can push us. Which, again, I appreciate the hell out of.
Yeah,
you know, having a guy recreate his dad over a latex thing that's a push, man. We've never been in again, you're right. Like we said this at the top of the show, we've never been in a situation where we've been pushed so far yet. We're like, that is just not in our wheelhouse. And, like, this one, finishing it, I was like,
no.
I was surprised how deep in our wheelhouse this one was.
I agreed with that. I was like, fuck, if we haven't built a show for this. Also, I was like, ugh. I felt gross when this one ended, right? And it made me think a lot of thoughts that I wasn't pleased with.
Yeah. I forgot to text you, but because we usually put my kid to bed and we do like a whole bedtime routine. And I forgot to text you right before I like put my phone down because I don't let him play with my phone anymore before he goes to bed. But I was like, I think I need a shower after watching that movie. Like,
Yeah.
It felt like the way I felt after watching like Wolf of Wall Street. I was like, oh, I just feel gross. Like I just feel like.
But so this one has this. I was telling you, I was trying to kind of place what I thought this movie should have been, right? Because this is a movie that got lost, and I was like, this feels like an '80s slasher for a lot of it, right?
It's shot that way,
and it's an '88 film, but I feel like this is the forerunner to the kind of Basic Instinct, Fatal Attraction, like the erotic thrillers that were coming in the 90s.
Have this Joe Esterhaus feel.
And there's a version of this where you could have seen this being like Tom Cruise or Brad Pitt or one of these guys having like their first like big role as Leon in the mid 90s, and this being like a big budget movie, right? Like you throw in your like fucking Ashley Judd and Johnny Depp and Leon, right? I mean, it's a weird between eras.
If it was like 92, to me, this would be like sort of the way it's interesting. Like watching it, I was like, this sort of feels like the way like what Less Than Zero was kind of supposed to be. Was that like push out of the Brat Pack?
Yeah.
And that to me is like the vibe is like
the Brat Pack probably read this and they're like, oh god, this is the Tuesday.
Yeah, like this is the kind of movie Judd Nelson should have just been like chomping at the bit at, and like someone handed him the script and he's like,
Judd Nelson's just like, wait, are we saying it's strange to have a room full of fucking muscle sex dummies? Is that not cool? Is that wrong? Oh, wow.
I'm sorry. I find this wildly offensive. Why?
Like, I haven't really slowed down a lot since I got cast in Breakfast Club. This is wild to me. This is new information. Okay.
I love the idea. That is a great Judd Nelson just sitting there and being like, this is really offensive. Judd, I know it's a very weird. No. This is. I like these things, okay? Why are you making fun of my lifestyle? Like that?
Judd Nelson's just like, why won't his bitch sister be friends with Penn? What's going on? Right? Like, what's happening here? Jesus Christ. All right, so to move on, right?
Moving on.
So we learned that Leon has a full psychosis, right? Because she does hey, how'd you learn how to do that? She's scared because she's seen her father do this. We see some really good shots of her watching her father do it. Little bit of mouth moving, right? But she plays along. With her brother now, it seems very different. This is kind of scaring her. And he goes, do what? Right? Oh, fuck. Now we got a full psychosis going.
Yeah.
So the parents die in a car crash. Again, this is like kind of the end of Act 1, which happens like 45 minutes into the movie.
Which, by the way, is like my favorite car crash scene ever. It's like...
It's truly one of the best scenes in the movie because this scene really has it all, right? So,
the look on his face while he's driving.
But just clear not driving, which I love. But okay, so he forgets his notes. Mm-hmm. He tells his son, get out of this town. Fucking go to college, right? He goes back to get his notes from his office. Somehow his son has beat him to the office and is, miming it up with pen or whatever. He sees it and is in an abject terror. Right. And the way they keep cutting to Penn's face, his slack-jawed face, like he got caught jerking off. It's so good. The way they shot that is fucking brilliant, right?
Yeah. Again, it's shot like a 90s erotic thriller.
Exactly
honestly.
Right. And so he's staring at Penn, right? And the dad, it's the one moment of the film you're like, I hope this is the crow's coming home to roost, as it were, the chicken's coming home to roost, where the dad's like, you know what? I tried to be an open man of knowledge. It's too much. There's a small crack in the levee, and now it's a flood. It's a fucking flood of insanity, and I can't hold it back no more. So he takes Penn. He's like, I'm going to fucking donate this thing at my talk, whatever the fuck this is. But on his talk, he's got to drive like 95 miles an hour down this curvy-ass road. Leon's crying at Penn. Oh, right?
Right.
This gets to a scene that there are two things that were happening in this scene. I don't know how to square this circle, right? Do you think the father was also a paranoid schizophrenic? And that in that moment, he realized what he had passed down to his son, right? Or are they insinuating in some way that Penn becomes this like cursed artifact that we pour things into? Because in this scene, as he's
like
driving, the blanket
It's like the
comes off.
Wishmaster Jim.
Yeah, Pen's moving. He's staring at him in the rearview mirror, like looking at the fucking manifest muscular face of all of his parenting failures. Because so there are two things, right? There is the what did I just say? Paranoid schizophrenia and the fucking sexual trauma he experienced. I feel like that's just bad writing, right? Or it could have been one layered on top of the other, right? Like maybe both of these things just happen, right? And he's the perfect time bomb for this. It did make me wonder, do you think the dad had the same kind of issues? And that's why he's such a weird guy.
I don't.
But Penn is how he coped, whereas Penn is how his son attacks.
I think that I don't. I think Terry O'Quinn. I think Terry O'Quinn just was not. Look, something is, there's actually, we haven't obviously we don't have a musculature doll in the house to talk to our kid, but this is something that in the last couple of weeks, like our kid, we've realized like we're parents now for a toddler, and it's not about just keeping him alive now. It's actually about teaching him things and like boundaries and learning how things work and that kind of stuff. So like, to me, actually, when watching it, I was like, I didn't sympathize at all because I think that's weird regardless. But what I can say is that like,
you take out your parenting tricks notebook and just scratched off
scratch off living doll. Not gonna happen. No. But like, when I thought about it though, like, because I do like to cast big stones at bad parents who I believe are in this double feature we have tonight.
I'm just afraid those are good. You remember the old playground rule? I'm rubber, you're glue, whatever. You throw a me, bounce off me, sticks to you. I would be afraid of that.
But I thought about this like on the molecular level of like if I was a doctor. And yeah, like it's a fucked up thing to do, to be honest with you. Like it's not a good thing. It's a bad idea. But like if you're
Is it that much weirder than Santa Claus? Or the Tooth Fairy?
Again, like
I mean, it is visually.
This goes actually to the other movie we're going to talk about today.
Did you just hear all of our audience just saying, yes, it's weirder? Did you watch the movie? But I'm saying pull it back. Weirder. Take your own biases out.
But if you pull it back, it's a doctor who's, let's say, not the most loving person. Let's say he's a pretty cold, calculating.
He's a man of science and logic. He's a man of
science. Yeah. So a man of science and logic who doesn't necessarily have the tools that you and I might have to speak to our children plainly. His methodology is wrong, but the concept of trying to it's the same thing as like people who have used like sock puppets and shit like that in the past to explain complicated stuff to their children. Yeah. It runs along that same parallel.
Are you saying that Penn is just Big Bird?
I'm saying Penn is more like I'm saying Penn is more like Barney if Barney was a dildo. Oh,
if you fucking skinned Barney and everyone fucked him.
It's the wrong methodology.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's psychosis.
You don't think this was a genetic passing down of because
I think Leon's
when he's
the
looking
psycho.
In that mirror, I was like, is this something like now his like because this was his tool to cope, right?
Sure.
And reach people. Now that he has to get rid of it, is that why he's malfunctioning? Or is he just like, I'm going to slam the gas and just gamble because I have fucked up a lot and I can't take the weight of this anymore?
I don't know if I'd go that far. I think him bursting
when he turned that light on and his son and Penn both gave the Kim Cattrall face for Mannequin, he's just like, burn it down. Burn it all down.
Like him bursting in on Leon while he's doing the patter with Penn. To me, it's one of those things where you're like, that to me is a great scene in a movie that has no business having great scenes in it. Because
this movie's got 8 great scenes.
It does. But like this moment, because that to me, I was like, there's no way this is psychosis. Like what it is like, oh my God, like this thing that I actually thought it's like it's a perfect example of like every parent's nightmare is like we teach our kids something and they extrapolate it to the point where you're like, oh shit, like I don't know how to pull this one back. Like,
you throw them a fucking cliche and next thing you know, they're like questioning existential shit. And you're like, oh boy.
Yeah, right.
I was just trying to get you to be quiet and leave.
Well, we were just I was just watching The Sopranos, and it's like that. Like AJ goes to Catholic school, and they have a teacher there who has them read like Albert Camus, and he's like, "God is dead," and you're like, "There it is, right there." Like you want a kid to learn, but if they learn too much, they're not going to be controllable in any way. It's like the same. It's this like really fucked up version of the same thing, though. Like you're essentially teaching your children with a fucked up Barney about the birds and the bees. Of course, the extrapolation would be eventually they'd figure out what the deal is. And like, okay, Penn doesn't talk to me. Dad's not in the room.
But if Penn had been like a Teddy Ruxpin,
yeah.
Do you think this goes any different for this family?
No, I do not.
That's what I think. I'm going to go. I don't think Penn is the problem here. I'm going to have the least hot take
Teddy
ever.
Ruxpin, maybe dogs would hump it more. Other than that, no.
Yeah, I don't think that was the problem. I have a story I want to tell so bad, but I can't. On the next Zoom, I'll tell this story because I don't know if my friend would be okay with me telling. But it's one of anywho. So, oh God, all right. So the parents die. The boy shows up. He saves Penn from the car because he loves Penn. He brings Penn home and puts Penn in his dad's suit, right? Long story short, he essentially turns this...
Penn becomes the Doc.
Yeah, but with like weirder hair, like Michael Myers 5 hair.
I thought the hair that Terry O'Quinn had in this movie was weird anyways.
He always has the like divorced dad who's like on tender hair, like trying to fucking do more than it should. But...
Even in Lost
bald.
with a shaved head, it was like that. Yeah,
just be fucking bald. Yeah, go shaved head. But so, anyways, he brings it home. Right now, he's the king of the castle. We have a fucking brief, and I mean fucking brief interlude, where his aunt comes. He gets the aunt, and again, another one of those great scenes. The doll, I'm behind you, Dorothy, and just gets lucky, I guess, and she has a heart attack. Right, so he gets to continue this ruse. The last time I know at Touchstone, right, they were 15 when the abortion happened. All of a sudden, they have, like, jobs and stuff. Like, they could be, like, 40 years old for all I know at this point. Because when they said she was 15 in the movie, I was like, ×2, minimum. So they are probably 30s, 20s, whatever the fuck age they are, right?
Right.
They're going to try to restart this life now with 3 of them in the house. I think that's what Leon says at one point. There's 3 of us in this house now. If you don't like it, move out, live on the streets. Is that what you want? Is that what you want? When she won't eat dinner with Penn at the table. This sounds... I'm trying to imagine what someone who didn't watch the movie is like, I'll just check the pot out.
Yeah, this is super important. And we're probably like 35 minutes into this show. It's really important you watch this movie before you listen to the pod. I never say that. It's really important you see this before you actually listen to this show.
God damn. Can we just talk about Penn's skin?
Yeah, we have to.
So let's put it. This is one of the weirdest things the movie accomplishes, and it's a fantastique, right? This is a giant donged, sexually functioning, anatomical skin doll, right? It's Uncle Frank and David Lynch Dune armor, right?
Yeah, solid real doll.
Yeah. If inside a Baymax was Uncle Frank from Hellraiser, that's what this guy is. Right? When they give him a pale-ass white face and hair in a suit, he somehow becomes at least factor of 10 times creepier. And I honestly have to say, I think that's fucking wild. I think that's insane that they pull that off.
It's something else, man. Like, this is the thing. The fact that this movie doesn't stop dead in its tracks when the skin goes on that body that's impressive work. This movie is not to
world building.
This movie is not to be sniffed at. Like, the fact that this movie exists alone is impressive.
Don't sniff at this movie, but you will constantly imagine what that thing must smell like, Penn.
It's not only that, but actually the thing I kept wondering, and I should have brought this up at the very beginning of the show, but I had to ask you, like, I was watching this movie and I'm just like, who is this being like? Who's this made for?
Me.
What, like
me. I'm the target demographic for this.
I guess I'm the target. Like somebody.
Okay, because this is what I was telling you, right? I so appreciate a movie that is effortlessly bizarre and haunting.
Right.
And what Pen is it feels so fucking unique and personal.
Right.
Right? There's something extra there that so fucking roots the scary shit in this movie that it actually like broke into my soul, and I was like uncomfortable watching this a lot. There are a myriad of split personality movies.
I think what's impressive,
slasher movies. This one has that extra.
I think what's impressive about this movie more than anything is that not only that it exists, but that even though it is beyond comprehension weird, I am hooked the entire time. And again, it's a really important thing because we've watched a lot of movies for this show, and we've watched a lot of movies that like I lose it. I mean, just in general, like we watch a lot of movies just in our lives, and you and I always go by like, if I pull up my phone while I'm watching a movie, clearly there's a problem. Like clearly there's something that I have lost interest in. This movie, people like I watched it on my phone at one point because I kept going between my phone and my TV because I was trying to hide it from my kid, and then at one point.
You let the boy watch, just like the doc. You let the boy watch.
My wife was actually like texting me, and I was literally ignoring her text so I could finish watching the movie because I was just like, "This is
there it is. You're throwing those fucking rocks, dude. There's your glass house."
But that's exactly what this is. Is like the fact that this movie should not be engaging in a lot of ways. It's a weird idea, and it's like it shouldn't work at all. Mm-hmm. And it works so well in the regards of what it's trying to do, which is like.
Right.
Yeah, it's like this weird erotic thriller kind of. It's like a precursor.
It starts
to an erotic
devolve,
thriller.
right? When you're like, all right, she's on a date. Now he's on a date. The girl's licking him. He doesn't want it, right? He's not normal enough to be thirsty for sex, right?
Also, just that guy looks like the Peeping Tom guy. Sorry.
Also, her boyfriend Stan could also be anywhere from 50 to 30 years old. I have no idea. He talks a lot about high school football, right? Weird.
Yeah.
That was the one time I was with Leon when he's like, I just don't want to eat around you. I want to leave this room. I don't care about high school football.
Yeah, he's like the same age as that. He's like the same age as
Uncle Rico.
That guy from John Hawks. He's the same age as John Hawks in the Scarecrow movie.
Oh
the
God,
teenager.
Yeah. The teenager with just
shout out Adrian.
Yeah, just that mustache stained with 20,000 cigs. Like, yeah, right. Yeah, right, dude. But that's what I mean. So the movie starts like, all right, they're doing like kind of basic slasher setups. Watching him wheel Pen around while that girl tries to get out of his house, and he doesn't even go for a kill or anything, right? No. Watching him not react as she runs into his sister's arm and she just holds him like, what's wrong with you? And we see the remote control. That's deeply unsettling stuff, right? When we see the scene, I'll tell you the scene that ratcheted it up for me. So when he's like, bring the dude over to the house, right? And this is where Stan is going to meet Pen. And you know Stan's been prepped. You know, all of this has to be somewhat manicured.
Right.
He's so excited to get Stan into that room. I was like sweating. Like it felt like the Texas Chainsaw Massacre family dinner, right?
Yeah, totally.
With Grandpa. And I was like, this is not okay. This is horrible. And Stan seems like a mostly decent guy. He tries to play along. He's like, oh, you like chocolates? He talks to Pen. He doesn't yell at him. He's not like an 80s bully. He tries to buy in, right? He talks about how nice the food is. And there's this really beautiful moment that I fucking love, right? This is where I was like, this movie's doing more. He runs upstairs, right? So he runs Pen upstairs, hides him in a room. And he's like, be careful of him, be careful. Or whatever, like, Meg Mucklebone voice he's doing, right?
Right.
And he just goes, you know what? He's nice. He liked my poem about raping my sister and having 200 kids. Because that doesn't, I mean, hey, write what you know, right? Sexually repressed
exactly.
weirdo
hey,
creep.
Listen.
He's like, he liked my poems.
Found
He's a nice guy.
Poetry's lovely.
Yeah, he's a nice guy, right?
Right.
And he tells Pen pretty much like, hey, man, zip it. I want to go back downstairs. he's excited as fuck to go back down and be with his sister and her new friend, his new friend, right? That he hasn't had the whole movie. They casually throw him being bullied in the entire film. He's always alone, and the only people that walk past him say horrible things to him, right?
Right.
He's so fucking excited to go downstairs with his new friend that treated Penn like a worthy equal, right? Who acknowledged his writing talent, right? Who his sister likes, right? In that one small moment, that's the one moment in the film where you're like, there's a chance for this guy, right? Like, he obviously has a problem, but it could go okay. And when he comes downstairs and they're fucking, he's sick. He wants to rape you. His poems are about rape. He needs mental health. Penn's a fucking doll. This is insane. And watching him come around the corner and keep like that kind of straight face was just this really weird mix of empathy for a character who's not empathetic at all.
Yeah.
And horrifying.
It's like oddly heartbreaking, honestly.
Because all he does is say, I mean, the weird sexual aggression towards his sister makes it a cringy movie often to watch, right? In that moment, though, I felt fucking horrible for this guy.
Yeah.
And I think the best movies, though, they give you that one.
It's a very.
You know when you're like
thing.
in like the Poseidon Adventure and you swim to the top and there's that little air bubble and you're like, oh, and that'll keep you alive for like another couple minutes. That's what that was.
Yeah.
Except for then he goes down and drowns. And it broke my heart.
It's a very difficult thing to put in a movie like this, to give your character who's bar none the weirdest character you've seen in most movies any sort of empathy.
I mean, he's
whatsoever.
in the pantheon. He's the top like fucking 20% weirdest character in a movie.
It's difficult to put that in a movie at all and give like not only like you can give characters that are weird empathy in some way, but like that particular sequence itself is so well placed in a movie. Like you said, like it is the air bubble that gives you it gives you the room to get to the end of the movie because you know where it's going. Like there's not a lot of like, it's very well telegraphed. It's not a thing that, and it doesn't take anything away, but like
a lot of these movies, you can feel the structure kicking in.
Yeah.
And the best ones just survive. Like when we talk about Frailty next, Frailty's a movie where everything in that movie is laid out real fucking fast. And you're not really surprised until like the third twist at the end, but that all happens in the last 5 minutes.
Yeah.
But it's still so effective. And I think that's what this is. You know that he's not going to have a clean break from Penn. You know that boyfriend's probably not going to be able to stay in the picture as constructed. You know the sister's going to have to confront the fact that she's just been letting this fester. Right? And so when he attacks the boyfriend, not surprising. Horrifying, not surprising. When the sister hears the watch, I was like, fuck, that's a brilliant beat. That's a brilliant beat, right? She hears his fucking nerdy watch. They fight. And what I love in that moment too, right? That's another one of those great is when he's like, why didn't you lie for me to Penn? Penn. We find out that Penn was named for Pinocchio by Ursula because he never lied and his nose grew. Right. And there's that great moment where Penn says, I never have lied to you. I'm not good at it. Neither are you. And he's like, you should have done it. We did all this for her. And he goes, you didn't do this for her. You did this for you. And so even Penn is sick of Leon's shit. And Ursula runs in with that fucking axe. And it's just wonderful. It's just wonderful.
It's awesome.
It plays out beautifully. You find out that Stan's alive. Ursula gets to be happy and surrounded by not creeps. She moves on. And he has become a living doll. Penn. He's become Penn. And
he's the living doll.
Someone goes in and puts his makeup on every day and gives him that fucking Nicolas Cage from Adaptation hairdo every day. It's so bad. It's so bad. And there's this beautiful moment where she's just, even after all that, she still is like, hey, is there anything I can do for you? We're going to be gone for a bit. Have you seen Leon? She's like, no. I really miss him quite a bit. Me too, man. So do I. And it's just, there's a strange, poignant element to this film.
It's a really poignant, brutal ending.
Fucking devastating. But also, it's weird because as it's devastating, you're also elated that Ursula can escape these creeps.
Agreed.
Like, Ursula, just by wanting to be in charge of her body, suffers an enormous amount of torment more than the movie plays.
Yes.
And it's nice to see her happy at the end. So, because I thought what they were getting at was that she fucking axe murders both of them, and that her boyfriend was going to be alive and dead, and she was going to get framed for it. Yeah,
that last fade out to white. I also thought the same thing.
Yeah, so you're like, oh God, no, and it's thankfully not that mean spirited. But what I'll take away is, again, effortlessly weird and haunting, which I love. Very memorable. Yeah. Penn is a great prop in a movie. The performances are strong. And it's just a very well-crafted work. It has more than just, this is the weird doll movie, right? It has these extra layers where it's functioning, and it's very aggressive and in your face. I mean, it was also an 80s movie, which a lot of them were. And it can be very cringe, but there's a lot of extra going on that I really loved in this film. I thought it was wonderful, honestly.
Yeah, I was not expecting much, and I got to tell you, it was really like... It was just. I thought it was just going to be a weird movie that we'd spend like 20 minutes talking about, and honestly, like, there's a lot more to it. I appreciate any movie that can do that and surprise me like that. That's what I love about this show, and that's what I love about doing the pod, because this is the exact kind of movie that is fun to talk about. Not just because it's off the beaten path, but because it just sneaks up and surprises you like an inanimate object. Speaking with apparently, and I read this, Jonathan Banks' voice.
Really? Wow. Holy
apparently
shit,
Jonathan Banks was the voice of Penn.
Interesting.
Weird.
Just snuck up on us with no washcloth on.
Just that crusty washcloth.
But also, I'll say this too. I want to give Brody a little extra love here, because the movie to pair with Frailty, right? There are a lot of movies I would get to before this.
Yes.
And I think that's the thing, right? Is that he saw this movie and it really stuck with him and was memorable. And again, it's this, do you believe yourself or this exterior voice that's trying to answer your questions and your problems? It's a fucking brilliant double feature pairing with
It's
Frailty.
an incredible double feature. You got to give it up, man.
A fucking
Brody,
plus
what
for
a
that. Yeah.
Killer. So good.
All right, that's it for Penn.
Frailty.
Put the washcloth back on. It's over. Get the spick and span out. Get ready for your shift tomorrow. That's it. We loved it. That's not it for us, guys. Today on your feeds also. Double feature, so you should have Penn and Frailty today. Compliments of our patron, Brody Kane. If you want to be a patron, join the fun, support the show, pick some movies. That's patreon.com/filmalchemistpod. We assure you, even $1, guys, anything you can do to help us out, join the fun, we will reward that, and we appreciate that greatly. The email is filmalchemistpod@gmail.com. The YouTube is Film Alchemist. You can find us on all the socials you're on. Go find Alex's anthology comic book,
Producing the End of the World, on Kickstarter.
That's right. We'll have the details for you in the show notes. Make sure you go donate over there to the good cause. Again, we'll be back for Frailty. Thank you, Brody. For the Film Alchemist, I'm Josh Griffey.
I'm Alex Dandino.
And I'm also Penn. Squeech.
I don't buy that.
Oh, gross. You actually ventriloquid on me.
Ooh.